Good afternoon, everybody. So great to have you here. Hope your week has been going well, whether you're here with us live today or watching the recording. I'm Lisa Reichert. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Career and Professional Development Lead on the People and Organization Development Team, which is part of the Berkeley People and Culture Department here at UC Berkeley. And I'm excited that you're all here for today's Now Encore series, which is AI is changing work. Are you ready? And here to support us with our readiness is our amazing presenter and content expert, Maya Roldan. Myra is CEO of Undesto AI, and she is a certified chief AI officer and a global AI strategist. Maya is a former Amazon leader who's trained over 1,000 professionals and worked with hundreds of universities worldwide. And today she's here to share her practical and powerful insights on AI, innovation, and what's next. Myra, thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise today. And the floor is all yours.
Yeah, thank you. As you continue to answer the prompt, if you're new and coming on, would love to know what AI tools have you or apps have you used today? I'm going to go back to our title screen here, um, because I really feel that as the years seem to go by with generative AI, we have our perceptions of AI seem to be evolving. There's a lot of concerns around AI and the workforce. And so today, I want to really focus on not how AI is going to potentially automate some jobs, but I want to focus on like how can you level your career up and what are the skills that you need to be looking at? And I'm going to give you some practical tools today. I hope everyone's ready. I may ask you to give me thumbs up in the chat or leave some text in the chat. I like to use the chat a lot. But also feel free to drop your questions. Do not wait to the last minute to ask your question, because we should engage. This is your time. All right. Again, today, my expectation for today is that this is a journey. It's not a one-time thing. Your learning doesn't start today and end today. This should be something that is growing, and as AI evolves, you should also be trying to evolve with it. Um, it's a safe space. We're going to be testing out some frameworks today on how to write effective prompts, how to find some use cases, and I'm going to give you some opportunities to actually practice. So I want you to take advantage of that. If you struggle a little bit, that's fine. There's going to be a recording. You'll be able to go back. You're also going to get a PDF of this presentation so you can look at the framework again and use it. So my agenda for you today is we're going to start off with leveling up your career with AI. Then we're going to jump into effective prompt writing. Then we're going to evaluate some safe practices, and then designing your AI strategy is how we're going to wrap it up. So I want to see, based on the agenda, what most interests you today. So you can do like one, two, three, four from the top. Just put a number down. What parts of the agenda interest you most? Two, three. Okay. See a lot of twos, some fours. Okay, perfect. All right, great. Thank you. Thank you for those answers. So we're going to cover all of it. So if you want a little more depth in some of the areas, we can take some time on that because we do have a little time. This is an hour session. But I want to start by prefacing this with this session is aligned to Berkeley's AI policy. You can find this in the Berkeley Hub, which I have opened up here. In the Berkeley Hub, you can find your AI policy, which I urge everyone to take a look at. It's your guidance on AI usage. I read through it. It's pretty decent, and so become familiar with it. There's also the resources, these licensed generative AI tools. I know you got this in your email also. We're going to be looking at how to leverage these tools in your work. I'm going to focus in on potentially one or two of them and give you some good use cases. Um, for generative AI tools, I just want to really make sure that everyone knows that if you're using like a Gemini application, I think right now the policy says that only public information should be used in those tools. So just want to make sure that everyone's clear on that. I am not going to ask you to do anything outside of like public information. Um, so become familiar with that policy because that's going to be the key for you moving forward. All right. So I'm going to start by asking you, when you see the word AI on the screen and the differences between generative AI and AI, who can give me a quick answer in the chat? Like, what does that mean to you? It could be either your definition of AI or, what we're trying to get at here. Okay, so generative AI creates new content. Great, like to see that. Generative is constantly being built. Okay. Streamlines, time consuming. AI is quite broad definition, and generative AI is a reference to large language models. Generative AI is based on other info available on screen results or an image. Okay, so let's go through this. So I'm going to give you a quick, just so we're speaking the same language. I like to think of artificial intelligence as a car. So I like to give people mental models because I think mental models are a little bit easier to remember than me giving you like a textbook definition. So I like to think of intelligence as a car. It has an engine, it needs gasoline, it has a steering wheel, it has tires, it has a whole system of components underneath it that make it work. So we can think of the engine as machine learning and the fuel, we can think of it as data. So it needs data in order to be able to move, right? Now the thing about traditional AI is that it tends to be discriminative. So it means it can only do one thing. You train it to do one thing. You can train it to do a prediction, to do a classification. And so think of a car, right? A car can take you from point A to point B on land, right? It can't take you from point A to point B in the water. It's not a boat. It can't take you from point A to point B like a plane because that's a whole different vehicle, right? So all of those vehicles though are considered as a form of AI, traditional AI. They can get you from point A to point B, but they only serve one purpose. They can only do it one way, right? So then I like to think of generative AI as a transformer, Autobot, right? From like the movie Transformers. So it is a car that, based on historical context and knowledge, can turn into something new, right? Ultimately, it can turn back into a car, but it is a robot that can run, it can talk, it can, lift things up with its arms. It can do things that a car cannot do. So it's doing something based on historical context though, right? Basically, like humans, we walk, we move, we can pick things up. So it's mimicking human behavior. So that is my quick and dirty. I want to make sure that we have these definitions because what we're going to be talking about today is generative AI. We're not going to be talking about traditional AI. We're talking about generative AI, and those are the tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and all the tools, Bear GPT at Berkeley. So that's what we're going to be talking about is generative AI. So I want to start off with giving you some examples of jobs that are emerging now based on a generative AI. So generative AI has been in the market, for going on 3 years now, and we're seeing a slew of new jobs starting to um, arise. So when you think about the industrial era when like jobs started transforming, they started using machines, and people had to learn how to use machines, and things that were manual then became automated. People had to reskill in order to learn how to use the machines. This is something similar. We had that wave in the when the internet came about too. People were like, oh, it's just the internet. Look at us now, we can't live without it, right? So AI is going to become the next iteration of the internet. So of these jobs here, are any of them uh new, or that are new to your thinking, or have you thought about these jobs as you think about yourself or your students or even your siblings, your children? Are any of these like ideas in there for jobs that are going to be exploding in the future for you? Anything seem like interesting? All right. So let me give you some basic stats. So this is the job. So by 2030, it's estimated that 170 million new jobs will be available because of generative AI. So there are jobs that we still don't know about that are going to um, be become a thing, right? As the youth says, it's going to become a thing in the market. And so I think that learning the skills now is important. And I will tell you that at the base of all of this, communication is key. And so there are some um, how AI can help you like build the right skills for yourself so you can use AI to fill your knowledge gaps, right? And I think right now AI can really serve as I've seen people use it as a coach, to provide feedback on their work, to help them learn a new skill. I still think that when we think about generative AI, a lot of us are thinking of like the Chat GPTs and of the Geminis. But if you think of like YouTube that has AI integrated and can create help you find learning that you need, right? Or think about, and YouTube does have a generative AI piece to it now also. So it can help you to really personalize your learning. You can also use it to, generative AI to build your portfolio. I'm going to show you a tool that hopefully you'll all start using after today in your workflows, and I'm really excited to share it with you.
Myra, I see
Yes,
Francisco has his hand up. Francisco, did you have a
yes.
question? And then there's some in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I read the chat as well. Where are those numbers that you showed us before coming from? And are those numbers categorized by specific industries? And are does AI affect different industries in different ways?
Okay, that's a great question. So these numbers are coming from reports like McKinsey, Gartner, and WEF. So I like to cross check all my numbers because everyone has different numbers. Um, and yes, it's going to impact different industries at different rates, but every industry is going to be touched by it.
I
I
have a
don't have,
follow. I'm sorry, I have a
I'm, s-
follow-up
Go
question.
ahead.
Is there
Go ahead.
is there a is there an industry that's kind of leading the way, bigger than any other industry? And
Yeah, I would say right now, pharma is pharmaceutical, healthcare, life sciences. They are further ahead. And think about this, they're a regulated industry, right? So I just did a session, I did a Tuesday session in Fort Lauderdale. I just got back from there, where we were looking at um, updated FDA requirements around AI. and product development. And so very interesting. So FDA is putting regulation in place for manufacturers of pharmaceuticals in the life sciences. I think other industries are starting to uptake it a little bit more. Um, but some of the other regulated industries like banking, right, and legal, and they've already had their hiccups. And so I think they're being a little bit more cautious in the way that they're implementing. So we're going to see it's not going to be a super fast uptick. We're going to see the addition of jobs. We're not going to see the automation of a bunch of jobs yet. Okay, cool. And then I think I answered that. Where do the numbers come from? Um, any other questions before we move on?
There was one other question.
Okay.
Somebody asked about prompt engineering, and might you explain what that is?
Yes. So I'm going to save that question for I'm going to parking lot it for potentially like 2, 3 minutes because we're going to actually do some prompt engineering. Okay. And then that might actually help to answer that question. Okay. So some of the most critical skills for generative AI for the future is actually communication. And so communication will help us, become universal translators. It will have a multiplier effect. It will also future proof. I read a statistic, and I can't remember the number right now, but the U.S. is facing a high illiteracy rate right now. And so communication skills are super important because users need to be able to interact with AI using natural language, so conversational tones, being able to write effectively, being able to speak effectively. And I'm going to dig up that stat again, but with the illiteracy rate on the rise, it is, it's a little scary, right? Because it means that the digital divide is growing because of it, because you have students that can't spell, can't write correctly, and they're graduating from high school without these basic skills. And so prompt engineering is a core skill that really unlocks a variety of things. So um, it stands out as one of the foundational career advancements and effective AI utilization. Um, so there's a stat that says 135.8% growth, role growth surge in demand. Sorry, let me rephrase that. There will be a 135.8% surge in demand for dedicated prompt engineer roles. So these are people that are going to interact with generative AI to create reports, but also like um, create data for the company, whether it's creating not just summarizing, but like creating automations, being able to maintain these systems, being able to interact effectively with the information or the systems in order to get the best outputs for the organizations. There's also prompt engineers will also help to reduce bias in the outputs of the systems. And we're going to talk about some techniques for reducing bias. And companies are currently actively seeking strong communication skills in their AI jobs that they're posting. So AI literacy is being recognized as the bedrock for skills for comprehensive AI roles. And so mastering prompt engineering really makes a person invaluable, regardless of which AI tools they use or which ones emerge or evolve in the future. It's going to be the key to navigating the AI landscape and communication as a whole. So I want to see if there's any inputs on this. I see that Lisa, you shared about the literacy is the foundation on which we build productive lives, and I agree with that. Um, and one of my fears is that the digital divide is going to grow. So I am a minority, and coming from a minority household, where I'm the only college graduate, I see that in my family firsthand, and I see it in other in the communities that I work with and interact with, and it's concerning overall. So I think that, and I know that communication is going to be the crux of um, the future right now, along with prompt engineering, being able to interact with the AI.
Mira, it seems like we have to be either a communications major or a English major to effectively work with AI.
Now, actually, you don't have to be a communications major, an English major. Um, what I'm finding, and I've been doing a little research on this. I want to dig deeper into it, but it's the fact that we have an illiteracy rate right now that is very high. So you have students in high school right now looking at that ninth grade to 12th grade that are reading at a fifth grade level and writing at a fourth grade level. And that's where the concern comes in. So being able to structure your thoughts, right? Take something from your brain and put it onto paper it's becoming a difficult skill for a lot of people. And so that's where I think, the critical thinking comes in, being able to understand how systems work, but also being able to articulate your ideas on paper is the core skill. So, yeah, it's an interesting problem that we have right now, in the US. All right. So I'm going to give you this prompt framework. So, this is going to be a hands-on practice. So if you have your favorite generative AI tool open, I'm going to move us from the PowerPoint to screen because I want to work with you through generating some prompts. So let me introduce to you the RICE framework. So prompt engineering requires you to be able to write effective prompts, right? So you can get effective outputs. This prompt framework allows you to generate or to create prompts that will give you clearer outputs that are aligned to what you're looking for. So RICE stands for role, instructions, context, and examples. So imagine you have an intern, right? And you want that intern to conduct a task, do a task for you. They're an intern. They don't know your environment just yet if they're a new intern. They may not know how the tasks are done. So if you tell an intern, for example, create me a project timeline like I have here, right? That intern may go away with little context. You may have given them something, but they might go away with little context and come back with something that's completely wrong, right? So the same goes with AI. So if you give it a role, you have to tell it what role it's looking at, it's thinking in, like put their thinking hat on. Like I want you to act like a project manager, is the instance I have here. And then the instruction is like create a project timeline. But you have to give it context. And so the context here is for a 6-month software launch. We could get more specific and tell it what kind of software, give it some more detail. But short context would be for a 6-month software launch. And then the example would be you can give it a template that's already pre-filled, so it can follow that template, or you can give it one like a prior project timeline, so it knows the way that you want it to output that text. So let me go back to, I'm going to go here and I have Google Gemini open. So I want you if you have Google Gemini open, I want you to enter a prompt. Let's do write a press release and just leave it at that. We're just going to tell it to write a press release and then hit enter. It's going to generate a press release, right? It's going to fulfill the task that you asked it to complete. Now, is this the press release you were looking for? Maybe not, right? But if you provide it more context, you'll get a better output. So let's use the rice method. So in the rice method, we would give it a role. So what we can say like act as a public relations officer. I don't know, right? And then we could tell it to uh, create a press release. Now we got to give it context, right? So the context that we can give it is, let's say that we are launching a new book, right? So write a press release. We have to tell it who the author is, what the book title is, when it's releasing. So we give it some context. So you can make this up for yourself. So I'm just going to say press release for my book release. Um, and I'll just give it my name, the author, or just to say the author is Myra Roldan. The book name is How to Write Effective Prompts. Um, and it releases in, let's see, on November 1st. Let's give it a date on, no on November 1st. Right. So I gave it a bunch of context. Um, so your Gemini asked it to provide details. That's great. You saw it. Mine did not. Mine just went for it. So it's going to interact differently for each of us. And then I'm going to say, write the press release in PR news web format. That's a press release site that you can use. So I'm going to copy this prompt for you if you want to use it because I wrote it on the fly. Normally, I write my prompts separately, like a text in a text pad or something, so I can store it before I put it into the AI. So that's one tip I'm going to give you. So I gave it some information, right? I gave it context and I gave it an example. I told it what it wanted to. Notice that it gave me a better um, press release, right? I could give it more detail because it's making some assumptions. It's hallucinating in some parts because it's talking about the art framework and advanced prompt engineering and ethical responsible use of AI. That might not be in my book, right? So it hallucinated because it's trying to fill in the content, the content and the context for me. So it's filling in the gaps. So when hallucination happens, it happens when you're not giving it sufficient context or sufficient information. And so the AI is trying to please you. It's a people pleaser, right? You can train the AI to not to make things up. If you tell don't make, like if I put in that same instruction, I can say don't make things up, keep it factual, right? Then it's going to give me a different output. So if we go back here, if I go to the prompt here that I copied and I put it back and I say don't make any information up. If you don't have the information, need it, please ask. Right? So I'm going to get a different interaction now with it. Now, the prompt doesn't have to be all caps. I just like to yell at the AI when it gets things wrong. It makes me feel better. Um, so notice that now it's asking me, say, hey, I need the publisher name. What's the name of the media contact person? What's the best phone number for inquiries? Um, it didn't ask me anything about the book yet. Um, but I could give it additional information now, right? Because it's not going to make things up. It didn't update. So I would then give it, that context for it to be able to update the um the information. So I want to make, I'm going to pause here. How many of you tried creating your prompt using the RICE framework just now? And what kind of output did you get? Did it make a difference? Okay. I'm going to teach you another technique now. So a lot of what we are concerned with AI is that it's bias, right? It will give it'll elevate privileges for one group and demote another group. It'll for example, Amazon launched an AI tool to review resumes that were being submitted for jobs when people were applying for jobs, and it ended up discriminating against women for the roles. And they had to take it down within 24 hours because of they took it down immediately once they found out that it was doing that, but someone had to report it and say like, hey, like I think there's an issue. Um, and the problem was that it was based the it was trained on historical data. So historically, it's for software engineer roles. Software engineers are historically male at Amazon. And so it was giving priority to male applicants and disqualifying any applicants that appeared to have a female name. So it creates an issue. So how do we mitigate against something like that when we're doing prompts, right? When we're writing prompts, because it's an issue. So there's this technique called fair prompt um, fair thinking prompts. And so with fair thinking prompts, what you're doing is you're telling the AI to evaluate its own outputs. AI doesn't know how to lie. It because it doesn't, it doesn't have emotion. It doesn't have like a sense of um, right or wrong. It's really just doing things mathematically. And because large language models tend to be a black box, like we can explain what goes in and that you're going to get an output of some sort, but we can't explain how it's exactly making the decision to give you that specific output it's giving you. So with fair thinking prompting, you can use it for bias detection, inclusivity checks, assumption checking, impact forecasting, and I have some sample prompts here. But I'm going to continue with the prompt that I had posted about the book, where it made some stuff up, right? So I'm going to go back to Gemini, and I'm going to say, okay, uh, review the prior output, um, and identify. Let's see if I can type tonight. Any bias in the output and explain why you decided to include the text that presented some bias, right? So I'm just giving it basic instructions. I put this in here. And you can finagle this. There's no right or wrong way. So now I'm gonna just hit enter. And so the question is, can you train a gem to write every prompt with these questions in mind instead of asking them each time? So you can tell it to, I'm going to show you a technique for that. You don't have to write it every time, but you could just put an instruction into the system that says to take a specific viewpoint. So here you can see, let me close this here so you can see a bigger version here. Let me see. Can I make this bigger? There we go. Is that better for everyone? So here you can see that, you know, excellent question, obviously, right? Reviewing the press release. to identify inherent promotional bias. So some of the biases I'd identify was promotional hype and authority bias um, as its core biases. So definitive guide. So the words that it used that are bias, expert author, new digital literacy, proprietary methods. And then it gives me the justification, right? It's trying to establish me as a thought leader. It's creating urgency and relevance. It's differentiating the product. And so when you're doing this fair thinking prompting, what you need to have is like, what is your level of acceptable bias, right? There is no metric out there right now for generative AI. Right now, this is subjective. This is person by person. So you need to decide what level of bias are you okay with having incorporated into your answers, right? Into these outputs that you're getting. Um, there are instances where we don't realize that something is biased, like an output is biased. We'll look at it and we'll be like, oh, that's okay, right? Um, you can, in the system instructions, let me just show you. I think it's in the settings here. Is it in my, hold on. So in your settings for the app, you can tell it to when it's writing to write in a specific way and to take a neutral standpoint. So what I would do is I would go in here and if you're using it in one session, like I don't recommend using one session for everything, but you can use one session here. I'm not logged into my regular account. Uh, but you could go in here and you can tell it like whenever you are generating output, please check for bias. And you can tell it what kind of bias you want it to check for. And you can say use inclusive language. Um, you can tell it to, avoid political stance. You can tell it to um, take a neutral perspective. You can ask it, you can give it a bunch of instructions based on what you're specifically looking for. So you can put this in your system instructions for your specific profile at the university to actually, when it's answering your questions or giving you outputs, it's going to go through this first. Okay. So I want to give you now an opportunity to try doing some fair thinking prompting on the output you just had with Gemini or on any other output that you've had. So I would like you to go in and ask the AI to review its outputs for bias. You can keep it simple. Review your outputs for bias and see what you get. And you can ask it to give you details on the bias that it has and why it selected, the outputs. So you can get very granular with this. The more you put into your prompt, the better the output, remember. It's free of problematic bias. Interesting. You can ask it a follow-up question to say, did it give you a definition of what it means as problematic bias? Intentionally written with a bias towards urgency and advocacy. Yeah, I like that. Problematic refers to any language that unfairly judges, generalizes, or makes negative assumptions. Okay. So then you would have to decide if that's okay with you, like if that's, the threshold, as long as you understand what it means by the definition it's giving you. All right. So right now I have given you two tools that you can use in or frameworks, I should say, that you can use. One is the prompt framework, so the RICE method. The second is the fair thinking prompting. Those are very important um, frameworks that you can use when writing your prompts. Now I'm going to give you a tool. So I mentioned to you that I like to write my prompts offline, so I don't write them directly into the GPT when I'm using it. I like to think through my prompts. So I keep a prompt library for myself, and I keep it in Notepad right now. So that's where I usually write my prompts because then I can think through like what am I asking for before I put it into the AI. So that way I know I only have to prompt the AI probably once or twice to be able to get what I really want. Um, I will I will create knowledge repositories for myself. So at Berkeley, you have access to Notebook LM. So you can go to Notebook LM. If you go to the Berkeley resources, you get access to Notebook LM Pro through your Berkeley account. Um, so if you go to Berkeley Hub, it's under the license resources. It is right here, Notebook LM Plus. And the maximum allowable data protection level is 3, which is medium security. So I'm going to show you how you can leverage Notebook LM to build courses, to create knowledge repositories, to do a bunch of things that you probably didn't know you could do and do it very quickly. So with Notebook LM, what you're doing is you're creating a notebook and it creates a blank instance for you. And the first thing it tells you is to upload a resource. So I'm going to go and I'm going to just upload a file. Let's see, I have a bunch of files in here. Let me just pick a few. I'm going to put this on, let's do some quantum in here. So I just put one file. You can put up to 300 sources. Okay. So now on the left hand of my screen are going to be my sources. So everything that I upload as knowledge in here, I can go and I can add a website. So I can say, I can paste a website in here. I can say, go into my Google Drive. I can copy and paste text from a site. And I can also discover resources. This is new right now, this feature, this discover sources. And it can look for it in in your Google Drive or in your web, right, in the internet. So if you have files in your Google Drive and you just don't know where they are, you can have it search into your Google Drive that's attached for anything on your topic. I'm going to search the web because I don't have my quantum content on here. I cannot type today. So I'm just going to say quantum computing for beginners, and it's going to go and find sources for me. And I can go through and I can look at the sources that it found. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to accept all of them. I usually like to, we'll go through one by one and read them and just to make sure that it's what I want. I wouldn't accept anything from Wikipedia, but here we are, right? So this is a source-based AI. So the backbone of it is Gemini. Um, it will only answer questions based on the data that's in your sources. if the data is not in your sources, it will not answer the question for you. It will tell you like, I don't know. So if I ask it here, I'm going to ask it, how do I change the oil in my car, the oil, the oil in my Tesla, right? Um, it's going to look through all the sources that are in there for an answer, and it's going to come back and it's going to say, based on the sources provided, I'm unable to provide an answer to your query on how to change the oil in your Tesla. So one, it's not telling me that Tesla doesn't need an oil change, right? That's an electric car. It's not telling me any of that stuff. It's saying the available material focuses exclusively on quantum computing related topics, and then it gives me a source of topics that it can answer on. Um, This is such a great tool because based on this, I can say, let's say I was creating a lesson on quantum computing. I can say, generate a lesson on the foundations of quantum computing for a 100 level um, college course. And it's going to search through all my content and it's going to organize it. It uses natural language processing to be able to understand the information we're asking for. It's using generative AI then to go through the content that I have to put it into a format of a lesson. And so now it's created a lesson for me here, right? So I'm going to go all the way to the top. It says the lesson for foundations on quantum computing. It gives me the associated course. It has some objectives, uh, define fundamentals and differences between classical and quantum computing, identify. So it's using some Bloom's taxonomy on here and here for the objectives. And then it gave me the content that should be covered in the lesson in bullet point format. So it does a really good job of taking your data and helping you to create new content from the data that you have in your sources. The other thing you can do, which is this is my favorite feature, is creating an audio overview. So you can, if you click on the little pencil, it'll allow you to create a deep dive, a brief, a debate, or critique, and then you could have it go on, speak on specific things. So like I could say like generate a critique and in a brief. So I selected a brief, right? Um, critique of on qubits and the unstable nature of quantum computing right now. And I'm going to say the audience knows nothing about quantum, and our senior citizens in a senior center. I'm delivering a class. This is supporting material. I cannot type tonight. Okay. So now it's going to generate an audio overview that's going to be a two-person podcast. I have a podcast. This is how I generate it. My regular podcast. I will upload my documents and then I'll have it focus on specific parts of my document. So just wanted to go through that with you on Notebook LM. It's a powerful tool. You have access to it. I recommend that you use it wholly. Okay, so that was my Notebook LM demo for you. Um, Next, I'm going to go through the Ask framework. We have about 8 minutes. The Ask framework is a way for you to take and do a task analysis of your workflows and give it to AI and ask it like based on these tasks, what can I automate? What can I share with AI? And what should I keep from AI? So you can put up your like a task list, right? Like these are the tasks that I perform. I want you to analyze it and tell me what can I automate, what can I share with AI, and what should I keep from AI. This is a really good way to find use cases or for AI within your workflow. You're going to get a copy of this slide. I recommend that you try this um, as you start looking through your workflows because it can really help you figure out what are the things that you should really be keeping from AI and not trusting it with, and what are the things that you can share to use it as a brainstorm partner. So, I think so. Junie has a question for. I think it's more related to Berkeley. I don't have the answer to that. So if someone can pop an answer in there for her, I do want to sh go into this data privacy and keeping your information safe. I have been training individuals for a very long time on AI and now on generative AI. And generative AI, because it democratized AI, it gave everyone this feeling that, oh, we can just share whatever. I want to tell you there's no delete button in the generative AI tools that you use. Even though you may be able to clear like your conversations and clear its what it basically knows about you, you cannot remove your data from the large language model once it's put in there. There's no delete button. There's no way of getting it out. I'm sorry, was that a question? Okay. So I always say be safety first. Do not give AI anything that you wouldn't want to be public. Um, know what tools you can use and what data you can use in the AI. Berkeley has specific information on you know what data you should be using in the generative AI tools. Also make sure that you're using the right tool for the right purpose. So, you know, like you have access to several tools and you should decide which of those tools are right for the job that you're trying to achieve. I'm a fan of Notebook LM for specific use cases for creating repositories for sharing knowledge. Um, but it is best to um, just use public data. Um, what Gen AI is best for more privacy, I would tell you, I'm going to be honest, none. Unless you're using an internal, but from a privacy perspective, your information is going into a large language model. You cannot delete it. That information is public. Like anyone can write a prompt and get some derivative of your information and your usage. So I would say, you know, play it safe. Um, and that's it. I want to see if you can tell me in the chat what you've learned. This was like drinking from a fire hose. And I want to see if you have any questions. We have 4 minutes left. Am I right, Lisa? Okay. I know this was really fast. Um, and you know, it's this is something that we could sit down for hours and do. Okay. So Jenny says, what does the temporary chat option via ChatGPT do? Temporary chat, it just means that it's holding a copy of your chat to help it decide like how to format your outputs. If you delete those temporary chats, it does not delete your information from ChatGPT. It has whatever you put in there, you cannot remove. Let's see. So some lessons learned here. Rice and ask method. Thank you. The rice inputs for your, okay. Uh, the usage of the models. Thank you. Yeah. So If when you're in a closed system, Jenny or Liz, sorry, when you're in a closed system, IT can specify what data can be fed through the model. More than likely, the version of Bear GPT is locked down, so it doesn't learn from that. And depending on the subscription that the institution has, that is what dictates whether the input is used or not. More than likely, you guys are in a higher enterprise version of it, so you don't have to worry about AI, your data being used to train the models. But I will tell you this, every time you interact with the large language model, they don't have to train the model because you are training it with your inputs and outputs. Any other questions here? Okay, I see the notebook LM and its use cases. The literary stuff is frightening. Yeah, definitely. Uh, so do we have a few seconds that we can take for Notebook LM? So the purpose of Notebook LM, you can find a use case for it. I use it specifically for um, not creating knowledge bases. I do like it for that a lot. And let me with headphone and see if this will work so you can hear the podcast.
This is the brief on why getting quantum computers to work reliably is such a tough nut to crack right now.
Can you hear this?
Okay, so you hear a lot about quantum computers, right? How they're supposed to be super fast. They use something called a qubit, unlike regular computer bits that are just zero or.
So that's just a short on that. The interesting thing is that we change the language and have it translate for you also. So you can have change the output language for your notebook LM. You can switch back and forth. It can take English language and it will output it into whatever language you select. I use it as a repository. If you share it with anyone, I will share this with you so you can see. If I share this with you, let's see if this will let me share. Um, what I could do is I can decide if I want to share it as just a chat, where you would only get this box or the entire notebook. And so that's you can use it as a chat bot for your whatever you're doing, your class, your studies, your team. So it's an effective way to use it. So there's a bunch of use cases for it. Do I also have my own voice on my podcast? Sometimes. Depends on how busy I am.
Well, thank you so much, Myra. I know this was a lot of information, great frameworks and tools. I really appreciated the examples of like the fair use prompts, those examples. And now we have ways to explore, and I'm definitely going to explore that notebook to put some knowledge in there and use it for really extracting information and building more tools. So thank you. Thank you all for being here and for your questions and engagement. I did drop the link to the evaluation in the chat. We appreciate your feedback. And again, Myra, thanks for sharing your time here with us today. And I'll stop the recording. And if we have any other questions, maybe we can take a minute to see.
Yeah, definitely. So I